All right, how's everybody doing today? We're back for another Zoom at noon session.
Woo!
Woo! With Rob Kraft, and Rob's going to do a guitar pedal clinic. We had something a little bit different planned and had some technical difficulties. But we're going to go with like kind of just a very intro to guitar effects and pedals and stuff like that. And actually, we're just going to use virtual pedals really today. So you don't even need, and a lot of this stuff is available. Even I think GarageBand has some pedals built into it. So there's free options for you to figure out and play around with some of this stuff. You may need an interface to get into your computer with your guitar. You're probably going to need something like that. But hey, it's a good start. Just getting learning some new things. So I'm going to toss it over to Rob. He'll tell you what we're going to work on.
Yeah, so what I had planned was completely not this, but then that, little bit of technical problems kind of screwed things up. So I pulled up some really common chorus, flanger, and phaser pedals. And they're all what we would call modulation. So basically what they're doing is they're taking your guitar tone and then they're making a copy of it in different scientific ways and then kind of blending it in to basically create some sort of like a doubling effect is like a decent way of thinking about it. Had I known we were going to do this, I would have like, the scientific, maybe a little bit more of a better explanation as far as, what is the difference between a flanger or a phaser, exactly what they're doing on a scientific level. For me, it's more, I think, just important that you get used to hearing the sounds of them and that you start to recognize them that way. So I think what we'll actually start with is the chorus effect. So what I have on my computer behind me, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but there's a little blue pedal on my screen. Probably can't really tell. So that is a emulation. I'm in a program called Digital Performer. It's just the music software that I use. And it's a copy of a Boss chorus pedal that's super famous. And basically what a chorus does, again, it's a modulation effect, and it's going to create a copy of your guitar signal, and then it's going to make it sound like it's double or wider or bigger. One good example of like a chorus effect is in the Nirvana song Smells Like Teen Spirit. He plays like the vocal melody as a solo, and they've got some sort of like, a chorus doubling effect on his guitar. That's part of what makes that solo, although it's very simple, it's not very technical as far as anything that he's playing, but it makes it sound huge and really aggressive and wide and really cool and fat. And that's a little bit of what he's doing. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of play the solo without that effect on, just so you can kind of hear, my guitar just dry. I've got a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb on, but it's basically just a distortion effect with no effect, no doubler on it. Oop, as I play it wrong. So that's, the opening little parts. I'll throw on that chorus now. That's just sort of whatever it opened as. I think it's set maybe a little too high, but this way you'll really be able to hear the effect. So I'll turn it off again. And then back on again.
Sometimes it's the easy stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, that and, again, we're sort of making it up on the fly right now.
You're exactly right. Do I still know this solo?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, man.
I think a good way to think of chorus is think of a chorus, right? A chorus of singers if you have one person singing one voice, it's got one tone and it's all going to be at the same time, right? But when you have a chorus of singers, a lot of singers singing, they're all going to sing the same notes. They're all going to sing about the same time, but they're going to be a little bit delayed from each other because we can't be exact, right? And we have different throats and different, you know, our anatomy is different, so our tone sounds different. So when you have a bunch of singers singing, it sounds different because we have different voices all melding together. That's what a chorus pedal really is doing, right? If you have two identical twins singing the same note at the same time, they'd actually sound like one person singing, just louder, right? But when you have two people, even me and my brother, who have the same DNA, we sound different when we sing, right? So, does that make sense? Did everybody hear that? Everybody hear the difference easily? You can give thumbs up, too, if you want to. Thumbs up? Okay.
All right, cool.
And if you have any questions, there's a chat feature down in Teacher Zone. We'll also ask you a bunch. We'll do a Q&A at the end, too. But if you have any questions, feel free to type into the chat, too, and we'll check in with you. Or just raise your hand and be like, I got a question on that, and we'll come to you. There's only a couple of us in here today, so we'll have some fun. Cool.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's the chorus effect. If you want to, get a good idea of that, again, that Smells Like Teen Spirit solo is a good one. Now I'm thinking about it too. The Police is actually like a cool one to check out too. Like he uses a chorusing effect as well in a bunch of different songs. I sort of think of a chorusing effect as sort of sounding like watery. And it's like a really fun effect to use on clean as well. So that's like the Police example would be like a clean tone, so no distortion at all. And again, it's just going to make the tone sound wider, bigger, a little more exciting. So usually how I'll use it, like live, if I'm playing with like my cover band, I will throw on like a chorus effect, like in the choruses of a song, maybe it's like, a little bit of distortion in the verse, and then you like hit a lot of distortion in the chorus, throw on that like chorus effect in that part, and it'll make the guitar sound bigger. Yeah. Zakk Wylde actually played with Ozzy for a while. He uses chorus like crazy, especially live. Live is always a little different than studio. I tend to kind of think of live as like, you can sort of apply your effects more like a paste. A lot can be really cool and really effective and kind of rock and roll. Whereas in the studio, a lot of times you want to kind of like rein things in so it's not like so outrageous. So that's the first one that we look at, which is the chorus. Like I said, that's based on like a Boss chorus pedal. They're not too expensive. If you go on eBay, you can track them down to find them. Little blue box. The next one we're going to look at is the phaser. And the phaser is the other effect that I use a ton live. Phasers are super cool. The one that is most famous, I think, is the Eruption phaser that Eddie Van Halen used in the tapping part specifically of Eruption. So it's not on the whole time in that little like kind of guitar solo track. It's really just when he hits the tapping part. And it gives the tone this sort of like churning, warbly kind of a tone it's super cool. So here, let me flip that on.
Yeah. Question.
I can't see the guitar.
Oh, that's a problem.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. Thanks, man. So I've actually got the phaser in sort of the wrong place in my signal flow right now. So that's like another important thing to kind of talk about. So when you start to build a pedal board, I wish I had mine. I had like a little teeny one that I made for when my cover band was playing casinos, but it's in the trunk of our cover band car, which is in Northeast Philly and not home. But at any rate, once you get a couple pedals, you start to put them all together, and you can change the order that your signal will flow or pass through them. So for me and for most people, the place that you put like a phaser or a flanger would be before your distortion. So right now I have it after the distortion. So basically the way I want you to think of it is like your guitar tone, what comes out of your guitar is this like crystal clear sort of signal. And then you're going to now process it with different things. So that's like your distortion, delay, reverbs, the phaser pedal or flanger, whatever it is. The way that you change that order is going to affect the tone. So I'll play it one more time the way I have it now. So right now I have it going my guitar to the amp or the distortion, and then the phaser. So the phaser is like phasing the whole sound, whereas then I'll change it in a second and I'll put it so that it goes guitar, phaser, then the distortion, and you'll be able to hear how different the tone is. So one more time.
Can you also show just what the direct clean single sounds like? So,
yeah, of course.
That would probably be a good thing. So you can hear what it's all getting effect. So this is direct.
This is just the distortion sound.
That's just the distortion. Could you do just clean direct?
Oh yeah, sure.
Just so you know what, like, this is what your guitar sounds like when it goes into a computer, a direct signal.
Oops, I have the phaser on.
Okay, so that's it. It sounds almost just like an acoustic guitar, right? Like it's only, there's nothing on it. It's the exact signal coming out of the guitar going into the computer. Then we're going to process it using the amp first, right, or the distortion. So
now I got the distortion amp, turned back on. So that's like just the distortion, and now the phaser after the distortion, which is that little orange box as well. Sorry, I forgot to say that. The phaser that's super famous is called an MXR Phase 90 is the one that's super famous. And specifically the one that Eddie used was this really old kind of early model of it that had the logo is in like script writing, and those pedals are worth like $500 a piece if you can find like an actual script Phase 90. But back like maybe 20 years ago, they came out with this like crazy looking Eddie Van Halen artwork inspired pedal that had like the script setting on it. So that's the one that I have in my like main guitar amp that I rig like that I gig on like in my big rack. So it gets that tone. But at any rate, here is the phaser in the wrong place technically.
Cool.
Now I'm going to change it. I'll put it where I normally would put it. And then that's much better. And then now in the right spot.
Now, why would you? What is the difference in where it goes in? You said it was going to be good.
Oh, so when you put it first, it's going to be more subtle of an effect. When it's after the distortion, it's going to be very dramatic and very like exaggerated. And then basically what you're doing is then your distortion is then hitting the phaser and then distorting the phaser as well. So most people put their phasers first. It's like if you're going in flow of pedal board, it'd be like your either compressor or like a wah pedal would be like the first thing you hit, then like your phaser and then overdrive, and then like delay and reverb being like later on down the road. Now, most people normally put the chorus after the distortion, which is where I had that earlier. So again, basically general rule of thumb, if you put that effect before the distortion, it's going to be less exaggerated. I know it might be kind of hard with our setup now. I was hoping to have it like direct computer audio today, but at any rate, it's going to be more subtle before the distortion, more exaggerated after the distortion. So for me, I prefer the phaser and like a wah pedal before the distortion, and then like a chorus effect after the distortion.
And I guess, is that because the distortion's adding like harmonics, right? And harmonics are just A quick way to describe harmonics is that, I mean, it's really any signal that you hear, the harmonic characteristic of it is why it sounds that way. You know, like a flute is almost like a sine wave, which it would have very few harmonics. A flute sounds, or like when you whistle, it's almost one single note. Versus if you hum, there's lots of extra notes going on. So if you think of like distortion or harmonics as like more of a hum than a whistle, when you first come in, that dry signal is like a whistle. And then when you add distortion to it, it becomes more of like a hum and you get more harmonics, right? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's on the fly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, think of like, you know, every sound that you hear in general has harmonic overtones built into it. That's what makes that sound the way it sounds. In other words, like a synthesizer is a great example. Like if you hear a synthesizer, especially something that is just a straight, like he was saying, like a sine wave, that's a certain oscillation or you know frequency, and it's straight. It has nothing added to it. Every note that you play on your guitar has other notes that are actually built in. So like a good example of that is like a pinch harmonic. So this is like kind of like a cool effect. But like, so if I play, let's say I just play this note C. If I do a pinch harmonic, here all those other notes are in there. So all I was doing was changing where my hand is hitting the string, and then you hear like an octave higher. Pretty sure that's like octave fifth third. If I'm correct, I might be wrong, but so all those other notes are technically in there. It was a fifth third, doesn't matter. Fifth third unison, it doesn't matter. So every time you play a note, there's actually other notes technically in there,
right?
Which is what a pinch harmonic will do. Maybe we could do a special clinic on like just special guitar sounds.
Actually, we're actually working already on a clinic for Rob Wickline is going to do a clinic on synthesizers first. So that will be a good thing too. You'll learn about harmonics and how you build stuff up. And I think he was talking about doing even just some guitar workshops on just harmonics. So we'll have more content for all that stuff too. But just a good little understanding of what harmonics and why you put things in certain order, just because of how you want to. It's pretty much how you want to manipulate the harmonics.
Yeah, totally. So that was the flanger sound, or not flanger. Sorry, phaser. So it's got that just like little bit of like kind of a churning sort of quality to it.
Yeah, like a wah 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 kind of like it has like a. You want to explain kind of like what phase is doing, like.
See, that's actually the thing. I don't remember.
Okay, so
I don't remember the technical like differences between it.
Okay, I'm pretty sure how phase works is that it's really like it's sweeping through the frequency zone. Is that right? I think that's what it's doing. So it's kind of like if you've ever heard a wah-wah pedal. What a wah-wah pedal is doing is it's sweeping through your EQ or your frequency zone. So it's almost like if you took the treble or your tone knob and you went really, really fast through your tone knob, you could get a wah sound from it. Now the wah-wah pedal just has a longer tone. It has, I guess it's a longer tone, but also like a shorter band. Right? A very small band that it lets through. A band meaning like what EQ gets through. I know we're getting kind of deeper a little bit into audio stuff. But an EQ band is like, if you think of it just like a gate, what it's going to let through the gate. Is it going to let the low ends through? If it's a wide range, then it'll let everything through, but you can kind of let it go. A good example of this, you ever hear those like radio voices where it's like an old-timey radio voice where it's just like, what it's doing is filtering out all of these frequencies that like the radio couldn't pick up, or old speakers. It was actually how it would be sent over the airwaves it was compressed. Now we've got it wherever we hear everything now. You know, and you can hear these microphones. You can hear. You never would be able to hear that in, 50, 60 something years ago. So, all right, sorry. So that's what phase is doing, is it's sweeping through the frequency zone, kind of just moving the center a little bit, and that's what makes it kind of just, it has movement. It adds movement to it. Make sense? Thumbs up for makes sense? Okay.
All right, cool. So that was the phaser. I'll go through the effects too and play again just so you can hear like the differences. And then the last one that we're going to cover today is a flanger. So let me just flip my thing around. So usually, like a flanger, I tend to think of it as it kind of sounds like a jet engine. It sort of sounds like a jet going overhead is sort of the way. What's up, bud? Oh, he's Harshall's on mute.
Oh, you got a question? Sorry. Unmute. Go ahead.
Oh, I can't see the guitar again.
Oh yeah. This is actually probably best just to play chords on this to really kind of hear the difference. Sort of sounds like kind of like a jet is sort of the way that I tend to think of it. Is that's the difference between a flanger and a phaser tone wise.
Yeah, kind of to me, it almost sounds like it's not as washy as the phaser, right? Like the flanger kind of like has more punch to it, whereas the phaser is kind of more washy in the background. Does that make sense?
So I'll kind of play just the same sort of thing. I'll do some chordal stuff, and I'll play through with the flanger first, then I'll flip over to the phaser, and then I'll do the chorus, just so you can kind of hear the difference. Because they're all different effects. They're all changing the sound in different ways. And honestly, like I said, it's more important to understand what they sound like than even necessarily like the technical science behind why a flanger is flanging versus a phaser is phasing. I think the phaser actually has something to do with flipping the phase, and then flanger.
There is a phase.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll just play like a simple kind of chordal part. And then this is the phaser. And then I'll do the chorus.
Cool. So yeah, they're kind of subtle differences, right? They're subtle differences because these are all in the same family, right? These are all modulation effects, right? It's also easier to hear. If we had computer audio going, you'd hear the difference more. It's a subtle difference. I remember when I first started listening for this stuff, I couldn't really tell the difference too much between them. But as your ear gets used to it and starts hearing the subtle differences in them, and experiment with them on your own, because you're gonna like Rob said, it doesn't really matter what they do. It's what effect you're getting out of it, right? Not to use the pun of the effect, but are you getting what you want it to do? Is it creating the kind of sound or tone that you're trying to capture, right? And the best way to go is experiment with these. And we're just using one setting. These have, crazy amounts of different knobs and dials, some of them. The ones that Rob picked actually are all pretty simple, 2 or 3 dial, but some of them get pretty complex.
Yeah. I think that's what's cool. I tend to like, especially when it comes to like guitar effects that you're going to use live with pedals, like the less knobs and switches, the better, because stuff goes wrong live all the time. You're going to have something happen. And, like the Phase 90 is great. It's got one knob. It has the rate at which it warbles it. So, this way is less or slower warble. And then this way is faster warble and kind of back in.
Could you show like an extreme? Yeah.
That's pretty extreme. That's like the rate really high, and then the depth or how deep the wave goes. Sometimes people use something like this almost like a fake Leslie effect. Is what that's kind of good for.
Anybody know what a Leslie speaker is? A Leslie is a rotary speaker. It actually, the speakers don't spin, but there's baffles and horns up top that spin around. You'll hear this a lot on the Beatles. Used it a ton. They even used it on vocal. Actually, anybody know the song? I'm pretty sure this is a Leslie speaker. No, never mind. I was going to say Crimson and Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells, like the Crimson and Clover. I think that's actually the tremolo in a guitar amp, though. But you can use it. The Leslie speaker is just a very cool effect, and it's cool because like it's analog, like it's really spinning. Like the sound is it's a Doppler effect, which like Rob was talking about, like a jet going over or like a car driving past you. Like say if a car laid on the horn and when it was driving past you, it would sound like the horn was changing pitch. Like it goes like, right? When it goes past you. Now you've been in a car. It doesn't change pitch. When you're holding the horn, it just goes beep. But it depends on where you are located when something passes by you. That's the Doppler effect. Again, this is getting into the physics of sound, of which it can be crazy complicated. That's when I didn't want to get into phase too much with a phaser, because like phase is a whole nother thing that you talk a lot about in recording and stuff. You're actually trying to minimize phase in most cases. So it's funny that the phase pedal is like, oh, let's crank the phase up. For most of the time, you're trying to get rid of phase, because phase cancellation is what we talk about. It can make a signal not sound as it should. So cool. I'll open it up for any questions or anything. I think we will. We wanted to do more in this clinic, but just because of technical difficulties, so we're going to go back to the drawing board to figure out how we can do more with this and show you with more of like a microscope. We're kind of showing you right now with like a telescope these effects, but like if we can get in with a microscope and you can really hear the subtle differences, you'll be able to do that too on your own. If you experiment with these, like you'll hear the differences. It's some of it's you just got to get in and mess with it. That's how I am anyway. Like you could teach me, you could show me how to do something, all day. But if I get in and actually learn how to do it myself, then I'm actually going to do it. I think a lot of people are that way, right? It's boring to be told what to do. It's more fun play and do it yourself, right?
Yeah, so I just put in the comments just like the different songs that you could look up to be able to hear them. So
Okay.
I'm 90% sure that he's using a flanger in the beginning of the Van Halen song called Atomic Punk. He's like scraping against his guitar to give it this, kind of like a churning sort of effect. And then it's definitely that phase 90 or a phaser on the eruption on the tapping part that I was playing. And then Smells Like Teen Spirit is where you got like a chorus effect in that solo. It's what makes the solo sound so wide. And honestly, these effects might have seemed sort of subdued the way you were hearing them right now. But if you were hearing them like for real in front of me, they're not subdued. They're actually they're actually very obvious. We were hoping to be able to have me play through my computer audio, and then you could hear the audio direct to you. And Zoom just didn't want to cooperate and let that happen. So that was kind of the problem there. And go listen to these songs, and it'll definitely become pretty obvious, that there's something going on there. Yeah. So, if you guys have like a multi-effects thing, like I know a couple of my students have like those Zoom multi-effects, that have a lot of effects built in, just tinker around with it, honestly. General rule of thumb, set the settings at sort of slow and modest to start. Don't crank everything all the way up because it'll sound crazy. These effects tend to work better on more sort of low to medium kind of settings, and that's going to give you something that's more musical. If you crank it, it's going to be harder to get that to work in like a musical kind of a setting. At least just as a general rule of thumb when you're playing around with something like this. So Lonely by the Police. Nice. Good call.
Yeah, So Lonely is a good one. It's so a good reason why the Police used this chorus is because they're just a trio, right? They play with bass, drums, guitar, and Sting, the bass player, sings. So Andy Summers, who's one of my favorite rhythm guitar players because he's very tasty for a rhythm guitar player. Like he's a great lead guitar player too, but he mixes them both together in such a great way. But he uses that chorus to sound big because he's just a single guitar player, right? So he'll use that, and it's all over, like Rob said, like it's pretty much almost all of his rhythm parts. And then he's different where like when he takes solos, he kind of does a clean solo. And so he like uses the chorus to fill out parts, and then like when his solos come, he's pretty clean because he wants it out front. And he like when it's clean, the less effect you have on stuff, the more out front it will be. That's just the way it works. Is a direct signal will be right up front. A clean direct signal will be way up front. As soon as you start adding harmonics, you lose that direct signal, right? So. Now you can just make that up by just cranking up and getting louder, right? That's the. So yeah, that's pretty much those are some good examples. Definitely check those ones out. Experiment with them if you can. We're working on I'm doing a GarageBand clinic tomorrow at noon. So if you wanted to learn more about like the effects that you already have, probably if you have a Mac, any Mac product, you have GarageBand. It's free. So I'm going to show you how to work with what's in GarageBand. So you can get into playing with some of that stuff. And then we're actually doing a Reaper clinic on Monday with Rob Wickline, our other Rob, new Rob. And Reaper's free PC or Mac. So we're trying to get you guys free versions of stuff. This recording production world can get expensive quickly, but it doesn't need to.
It doesn't need to at all. There's plenty of free stuff out there. There's a load of really good free guitar amp simulators as well. There's a guy, it's called like Le Plulon or something. It's LE space, here I'll type it. It's LE Plulon, like that. And it's like a bunch of different free stuff, free heads. So a head is usually like a guitar player. If you're going to play a gig, most of the time, a guitar player will have something called a head and then a cabinet. So the head is the part that has what's called a preamp, which is basically just where your distortion is. And then it has like an EQ section where you can like boost the way your guitar sounds, basically. And then you got a speaker cabinet, which has actual speakers in it. And the head has the power amp part built in last as well. So that's the part that'll actually make your signal louder. So a big thing with making, like if you're going to plug your guitar into your computer, is you need some sort of a virtual head then. You need something that's going to basically do that. And Luc Poulon or whatever has a great basically simulated free speaker cab thing as well. So you can get a head and then you can cook it up to like a virtual speaker cab, and then your guitar will actually sound like it's running through like a Mesa Boogie amp or a Marshall amp or like a Fender amp or a Vox amp, whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of different heads. It's all free to download, and there's Penny, no bark. There's plenty of tutorials and stuff out there in order to, if you want like a big fat aggressive metal guitar tone like that, that's a great way to get that going on in your computer. And you don't have to, get Reaper for free. And then you could just, use these plugins in Reaper for free,
Yeah. So Rob was talking about that being a head and cabinet. This is called a combo amp. So this is different, right? But a combo amp is just a combo of your head and your speaker in one, right? So this is your whole head, is just this section here. Now this is a a solid state, not tube amp, but it's still, and then the speakers here. So it's all they just put in one. So that's pretty common more for practice amps and I mean even I play all combo amps just
that's
because,
the one I have.
Yeah, I played with combo amps mainly because I'm lazy and I don't want to carry more things.
Yeah, speaker cabinet is heavy. I used to have a 4x12 cabinet that weighed 120 pounds just for the cab alone. So I don't do that anymore. I'm done with those days. I just have a 2x12 now. So that just means it has two 12-inch speakers in it. A 4x12 has four 12-inch speakers. And some guys like Yngwie Malmsteen will roll like the whole tour with he'll roll with a full stack. 4 full stacks, which is 4x12s, and then they're stacked on top. It's great. Just Google it. It's crazy.
So that's 16 12-inch speakers.
That's a lot of speakers.
Right.
That'll blow your head off.
I know. There was actually a band that rehearsed at Rockdale, the old Rockdale, the Age of Truth and they were pretty heavy, and their bass player used to bring an Ampeg 810 cab.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A 610 or an 810, like he has both of them, and he'd bring them to rehearsal in that little room all the time. And I was like, man, what are you doing? He's like, it's my tone. It's my tone.
If you're trying to rock, man, you can't play on a Vox,
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. Like I said, I have a Leslie speaker, but talk about like the worst things to move around. Leslie speakers, because they're actually furniture. They're made out of wood. They're polished wood, so it's like moving around a dresser everywhere you go.
Being a touring musician is basically like you're part mover and then part musician. Yeah. Like it's not easy moving all that equipment around, but that's just part of the non-glamorous side that nobody ever really talks about, especially for, when you're not, I guess if you're like a big deal and you're a national touring act, you got people you pay to move your stuff around. But when you're like me,
I don't know any of those people personally.
Yeah, me either, actually.
The best you get is sometimes you'll get after the gig, a couple people are like, hey, can we help you move a couple things? and usually I'm like, this stuff's really expensive. I don't want you touching it.
Yeah, seriously.
So anybody have any questions, or what would you want? No. What would you want to work on next time if we wanted to do more effects? Go ahead, Colin.
I don't know any effects.
Well, now you know 3.
Now you know 3, and we'll talk about this. We can talk more about distortion and compression. That's what we were going to do this time.
Yeah,
we had to change everything like 2 minutes before this. So
yeah, is it okay to do it during the classes, during like Zoom classes?
Yeah, we could work on anything you want, bud.
because you didn't tell like the notes, so I just wanted to learn more about those.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Harshal, you just started out, and you're doing really great already, man. It's good for you for getting in here and learning this stuff already, because you've got a head start on some more like intermediate, advanced stuff for being a young guitar player.
Yeah, remember everything that we talked about today too is like it's like the icing on the cake kind of stuff. It's like you got to already be working on getting like a good tone to begin with, both like literally in your hands, like the fretting technique stuff. I'm always, talking to all my students about, good fretting technique, keeping your fingers in the right spots in the fret. All of it starts with that, get your guitar in tune, be able to just make a good sounding note, and then remember, electric guitar, like one of the fun things about electric guitar is that there's a million different toys that you can add to your tone. There's all of these other effects that you can do to make your guitar sound crazy. If you listen to like Rage Against the Machine, I mean, Tom Morello makes his guitar sound.
Not much with acoustic guitar.
What'd you say?
Yeah, not much with acoustic.
Yeah, acoustic, there's nothing you can do but play it. But electric, there's all these fun toys. So these are just three toys basically that are in the same category. I should have said that from the beginning. These are, like Jared said, they're modulation effects. So it means it's going to make your tone shimmer or whoosh or sound like a jet, or it's those sort of effects. There's all sorts of other ones though.
Modulate pretty much means move. So it's going to make everything move. It's going to keep your tone and make it move. But what Rob's talking about is tone is the most important part of all of it. And tone comes from the fingers. I actually played acoustic guitar for years before I even picked up an electric guitar. And I think that helped me.
Yeah, I just played for 1 year.
You played acoustic for 1 year? Yeah, and I still love playing acoustic guitar, but it helped my fingers because acoustic's a little harder to play than electric guitar because the string gauges are heavier.
Like dots to help you, so it's harder a bit.
Yeah. Well, depending on the guitar, some have dots, some have. But yeah, you were probably playing on a classical guitar, which doesn't. A lot of the time, those don't have as much.
Only on the 7 it adds a dot.
Yeah. Well, that one's cool. You got like flying V's on each of them. Each of your frets. So
the new one is crazy. It's pretty sweet. Harshal came in and he had already been doing classical guitar, and he was
nice.
A bunch of cool stuff going on, but he wanted to learn how to rock. So we've been learning like Zeppelin tunes.
Okay. See, so you've been playing a little while. You've been that. I was good. I know that you just started with Rockdale pretty recently. So I was kind of like
better building, so we switched.
Gotcha. Yeah. Nice. Well, we're glad to have you, Harshal. And look, I mean, your fingers look great look at you going up 5 frets right now. That's pretty, that's it.
Yeah, he's made progress in a short amount of time.
He told me to arch my fingers and all.
So if you want some good stretching exercises, check out some of these Police songs too, because they're big on, like Andy Summers is big on this shape. He does this like, so you're set. Right? Or those are some stretches, right? So I use those songs as warm-ups a lot of time because they're just these repetitive patterns that stretch your fingers out real far, probably farther than I'm going to play in most of the songs that I play anyway. Rob stretches out a little further than I do, and Rob's a little more flexible than I am on guitar.
Not even that. It's I've been working on like a bunch of stuff by this guy named Tom Quayle, and he'll do these just, like this crazy wides, like he'll do this like really wide pentatonics. So it's like it's a big old. That's cool. That's the effect still on.
Yeah, it's really wide.
Real wide. Cool. So any other questions or anything?
No.
Comments? We're good. Oh yeah, Colin. Go ahead.
So I got ads for this one website before, and I just tried it out since I learned from you guys. But Tonebridge Guitar Effects.
Tonebridge?
Yeah, it's on the App Store and Google Play Store.
Oh,
and
cool.
It works really good. It has like all of these like it does effects from like songs, so you can get like just type in the song and it will give you the song.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what, and it has the effects built in there too, or?
And it has the effects, yeah. So
when you and are you plugged into? Oh, this is awesome. Maybe we could use this, Rob. If this,
yeah, definitely.
So it's just like, and then you type in, and then there's all of like the pedals, and then
nice,
sweet,
and then you can just go there.
And you're plugged. And when you plug in,
I plugged in through a MIDI input.
Oh, you got an iRig. Awesome.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. iRig. Good.
Yeah,
how much are those iRigs? Do you know?
Me? No, I do not.
I'll take a look at because so that's that's his interface, right? That's what takes his sound from his guitar into his computer. His computers aren't. There's no audio. There's no quarter-inch.
No.
But into
iRigs are like crazy cheap, man. It's like I found one for $11. That's for iPhone or iPad, and then there's another one.
That's awesome.
Where's the USB one?
That's really good to know. 'Cause that's probably what I'm going to have to tell people to do for.
It looks like a USB iRig is like $100.
Okay.
Well,
if you've got a quarter-inch or a eighth inch in, then you wouldn't need to use the USB. You could just like mine because mine still does have the headphone or no, because Apple got rid of it. The little quarter or eighth inch input. If your laptop has an eighth inch in, then you could just get the like $10 iRig and just be right in. Right.
Yeah, so that's good stuff to know to get your sound into your computer, because that's the first step, really. Like I mean, Rob has one of these too, and I just got one. This is a little bit more sophisticated. Can you see that? A little bit more sophisticated interface, but still not crazy expensive. I think this one's $150.
Yeah.
So this is the 2x2, and there's even a solo. They make one that's smaller than this that just is a single. This is, I think, called a duo or something, 212. But there is a solo one too. So
that's probably something we should do. Like maybe with the next clinic is just like how to get your guitar into your computer. What do you need to even get your computer to like make guitar noises?
Yeah, I think that's totally a good thing. I mean, Colin figured it out, right? Yeah. But Colin, you want to teach that clinic?
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I can, but websites.
But it's gotten so much easier. Like, I got this Sapphire or the Scarlet, plugged it in, downloaded one program, and it was working. So it used to be like. I can't even tell you when I first got Pro Tools for PC, like how many hours I spent just troubleshooting things to get it to start recording things. So, all right, I think we're good. Anybody, no more questions? You can always email us, email Rob, email me, hit us up in Teacher Zone or whatever if you're using that. We haven't really kicked into that gear yet. But yeah, so we appreciate everybody coming on, and it's good to meet you, Harshal.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll meet in person. Okay? No, I'm just kidding. Soon we will. All right. And thanks everybody. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
We appreciate you
no problem.
Adjusting on the fly for this for us too. So
yeah, we'll get that figured out in the future.
Right? You're gonna put this on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we're gonna put it on YouTube so you can watch it later if you want to. And I think we talked about, Rob, your next clinic. We might get back to doing technical stuff like actual guitar playing next week. Yeah. Maybe like sweep picking or something like that.
Yeah, that could be cool.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. Peace out, guys.
All righty, guys. Have a good day.